it is time now to dive into the next presentation, which is called What Not to Do in a Mega Project, Lessons from Baltic Synchronisation. And for that, I would like to invite Artūras Kuliešas. He has 20 years of experience in project and program management. He is the member of the board of Lithuanian Project Management Association. Artūras has led multi-million euro projects and programs for international banking, IT and energy sectors. He is also the Partnership Associate Professor at Vilnius University Business School. So, ladies and gentlemen, let's get ready for Mega Range with Artūras Kuliešas.
Hello, everyone. Nice to see you here. Thank you to Edita and Inga for organizing this. And as Inga, likewise, I'm a bit sore on my throat, but I will try to be very effective in what I'm doing. So, let's move on with the story I would like to tell you. So, as these events go, I have to introduce myself because nobody will do it for me. And I have been loving projects since the time, well, when I was just IT engineer, and for the last 20 years I've been running them in various organizations, 3 banks, IT companies. Needless to say, I'm certified for PMP, PgMP, and MSP. This is my 3rd program, and that is basically a definition. I am old. So programs tend to take a big chunk of your life. So now what I'm doing at the moment is running a synchronization program at Litgrid. Beside my day job, I'm also a Partnership Associate Professor at the Vilnius University Business School, and I'm trying to help project management students to love the profession and get basic skills needed for it. And also, I'm representing another social sponsor of this event. It's Lithuanian Project Management Association, or IPMA Lithuania. So, well, none of us have a lot of time, so let's get moving on. What I'm going to tell you, I promised to tell about mega projects, and as I happen, I'm involved in one of them. I suggest we start with a brief introduction of what we are doing at Litgrid that we call a mega project or synchronization. Then I will give a brief overview of what happens when your project that you're running suddenly has huge budgets or huge timelines and huge complexity, and certain lessons learned from what we were able to do in this mega projects for the last 3 years. And that's a lot, so I will try to make things concise. And I will try during this presentation to avoid theoretical knowledge. We don't have time for that. It's all on the practical, with a small exception, and this is what I'm going to tell. So I've seen in a forum of projectmanagement.com an interesting question which got me thinking as well, as a lot of other people did. What is considered a mega project as such, and maybe, well, why do we call it mega project? Could it be a large controlled program? Whoever knows about programs say, they know that programs are multiple projects put together into one, and they have to be interconnected. So the fact that there was such a discussion is primarily driven by inherent confusion about mega project as a term. So, and we kind of intuitively try to assume that mega project has to be a project, but just mega, whatever that means. But it's not necessarily the case because, well, I'm a program manager and I'm involved in the mega project. So, in definition of very successful Professor Ben Fliesberg, who is an authority in megaprojects. Megaprojects are large-scale, complex ventures that typically cost $1 billion or more, take many years to develop and build, involve multiple public and private stakeholders are transformational and impact millions of people. That's essentially the nutshell of it. And the thing is, it's not said that these are projects. These could be programs or projects. And from discussions that we had in this forum, it's clearly seen that most of the mega projects are in fact run as programs. And the reason is programs and projects are distinguished by the management approach. We can run certain scope as a project or as a program, depending on the complexity, size, duration, and strategic importance of that. So as far as mega projects go, most of them, if not all, are run as programs. So this is the case with us as well. So I hope that clarifies. Remember, in the end, mega project is not a management term. It's a moniker that politicians use. And just a hint, if politicians are interested in your project, it's already quite close to be a mega project. So, to finalize, 4 critical criteria that we will be talking about is strategic importance, extensive time frame, complexity of scope, and complexity of ecosystem. These are things that are distinctive traits of mega projects. And by definition, they are also distinctive traits of programs. So let's move on with what we did at Litgrid for Baltic synchronization. First of all, for almost 80 years, since the World War II, Lithuania, Latvia, Estonia, and many other countries, including Ukraine, Moldova, they were part of Soviet Union, but also Poland, Czech Republic, Slovakia, Hungary, were a part of common power system with Russia, known as IPS-UPS. And when we are talking about common power systems are actually identified by synchronous areas. The green blob here, a continental European synchronous area, was then only occupied by Western Union. But in 1994, essentially, some of the, when Soviet Union collapsed, Central European countries moved to continental European synchronous area, and now they are synchronized with the rest of the Europe. And while we are still in Russian space, so to speak, it can come as a shock to many, but that's a fact. As a matter of fact, Ukraine and Moldova are also in continental European synchronous area, but only since February this year, because transition came right after the occupation by Russia started. That was a long-term project. It was not an opportunity taken, but it was a project that was supposed to finish in 2023, but they had a significant pressure to move on right now. And so they are already a part, but we are not. And we also wanted to be a part of continental European synchronous area since probably 1992, when we became independent, all of us, Lithuania, Latvia, and Estonia. But only in 2007, the strategic objective to do it was determined, and we started working on studies, we started working on political support and a technical approach actually materialized by the time of 2018 and 2019, when the political roadmaps were signed between Lithuania, Latvia, Estonia, Poland, and European Commission. So European Commission essentially said, yes, it's a good idea, and you know what? We are going to pay for it. At least 75% or something. So the thing is, moving from IPS-UPS to continental European synchronous area is immensely complicated matter for Baltic states. it's even more complicated than it was for Ukraine. The thing is, the only continental connection for synchronous connection is through Suwałki Gap over there, which is a very small geographical area. So in a way, we're only been able to build a single overhead line to Poland. So we are attached to the rest of continental Europe over essentially one line that is suitable for synchronous connection. Secondly, if that connection, as we know in energy systems, it can go down. It can be taken for maintenance, it can go down for various emergencies, then we suddenly become an island if we choose to go that way. So the system that we need to implement for connecting to continental Europe would be unique in a way that nobody else in Europe so far has it. So there had to be a lot of technical issues and technical challenges waiting for solution. And we ended up with a solution which is not necessarily very simple and cheap. So it was kind of complex and expensive, but that's where all mega projects are. So in a nutshell, we need to do the following. Back in 2015, when we were thinking about synchronization, we started building a line to Poland. So we finished building a line to Poland that is currently our key connection to continental Europe. We would use this line as a basis for synchronous connection. So for Litpoliink, we would upgrade that line into synchronous connection, because at the moment it's asynchronous and is used only for DC power, which is also understandable because we are still, as I mentioned before, connected to Russia. We can't be synchronously connected both to Europe and to Russia. We need to choose. So when we move, we will change the mode of connection to Poland to synchronous, and we will sever all the links from Estonia all the way down here to Belarus and Russia, and also to Kaliningrad. That's a basic premise of synchronization. And the thing is, what we need, at the moment we use this line for trade with continental Europe. We don't want to lose trade, so we will build another line over the sea. That's going to be a cable or HVDC interconnector for trading with continental Europe. And once this is done, there's only one problem. If this one goes and we suddenly get into the island, how do we ensure that we don't have a massive three-country blackout? Apparently, there has been a lot of energy studies required to solve that problem, and the solutions are there already. When we're building 9 synchronous condensers, huge generators across the Baltics, 3 in each country. We are building 6 battery storage systems in Lithuania and Latvia for smooth transition between island operation and synchronous operation. So this is just in a nutshell of what is going to happen. In addition to this, we will the thing is, since we are severing connections with Russia and Belarus, so we always have to think about resilience. So you don't want to live in a world when one line being cut means that somebody doesn't have electricity. For all connectivity in the country, we should have multiple redundant routes for lines and substations. And what happens when we finish synchronization is that those redundant routes will be severed. So we have to build new lines, essentially, to cover for that. And all of this will happen by 2025. So this is synchronization in a nutshell. And I already had a possibility to explain that this is a large venture. It has to be managed as a program, as a matter of fact, as 4 programs in each of Estonia, Latvia, Lithuania, and Poland, because Poland has to have certain construction on their side. And it has to be managed with high complexity, high stakeholder engagement, and through a long period of time. And that's basically the idea. In total, in Lithuania will be 21 projects implemented, 20 of them by Litgrid. And where are we today? First of all, we are done by 48% of what we wanted. We have completed 6 projects in Lithuania by Litgrid, and 17 projects have already been awarded contracts, so we don't have to go through procurement anymore. We just need 3 contracts to finish the work. And out of requested 1.2 billion for 3 countries, we have received a commitment from European Union for 100%. So we have finished the funding exercise for that amount, and 460 million are actually granted to Lithuania. The most expensive project among all 4 countries is, of course, Harmony Link with 680 million tab. And it's a 330 kilometer long marine cable that will have to be built. At Litgrid, it also means that we are very busy with it, and it's our top priority. Out of 360 people who work for Litgrid, 30 people are in what we understand as a core team, and 228 people are involved one or another way in projects. That's what we get from project management system. So essentially, the entire organization is working on it. So what did we learn? Well, I have to still have 10 minutes, so I'll try to be as concise as possible. There are 4 general things that we need to know about mega projects. Strategic importance. They have to be important, and they are important. As I said, in definition, affecting millions of people. They have extensive time frame. They are not short. They have complexity of the scope or complexity of what needs to be implemented. And they have a complexity of ecosystem, resources, stakeholders, organizations, who have to be coordinated to avoid miscommunication, miscoordination, and loss of money. So, from strategic importance point of view, mega projects are critically important by definitions. And they can make or break organizations, financial sponsors, political powers, or nations. Moreover, mega projects are more likely to fail than to succeed if we look at key criteria of cost, schedule, and benefits. As a matter of fact, this research says that only 3% of mega projects, listen to this, only 3% of mega projects met their objectives of time and budget. So this is closer to a lottery than to a project management. And so getting into the elite is a very ambitious task. And if you don't, it's not the end of the world in the end, but as long as you deliver what's being agreed and what's providing value. So in order for that to happen, strategically important programs have to ensure that there is a balanced and consistent stakeholder accountability, because you have lots of stakeholders and you want a balance of them. So there is clear balance between authority and responsibility and accountability, which is not easy when the project is or program is politically motivated. So for us, the key structure of governance had to be reviewed and set up in such a way that we understand who is doing what, and that organization up to CEO considers this to be objectives, and they had their personal objectives linked to that. There should be a culture of higher purpose in the organization, which has to be driven by leadership. And this we also had to nurture over the 3 years that we've been working on this. So everybody knows what synchronization is in organization, and everybody knows that they will have to contribute to it. Finally, the important is communication, reporting, and lots of engagement with stakeholders, especially political ones, from president, prime minister, parliament, ministries, and everyone who want to have a say in what you're doing, and that's a lot. It has to be consistent, it has to be data-driven, and it has to be correct and on time. And that's, for mega projects, is one of the major issues why we need significant PMO resources. So what we should not do for strategic projects, we should not make ourselves or our team too self-important. We are there to serve, not to exert power. So it's important that we always understand, as a program, as a team, that we are following a strategy, and we have to adjust to changes in strategy, and we should understand what's at stake at every time. But on the same time, we can't allow the program to be buried too deep in the hierarchy. As long as we can talk to key stakeholders, and we are able to talk to our key shareholder, AppSoG, the ministry directly, in a way we have a direct line to government through a special commission organized by Prime Minister. So we have that visibility. But if you're running a mega project, it's very important to set that visibility, because you need people to help when you escalate issues. And for that, you can't limit access to information. They should. Your key stakeholders are your resources. They will solve the problems you can't solve. So they should get information about all the critical issues and risks as truly, as detailed, and as up to the date as possible. That's where we had to set an entire system around that, so that board members, key stakeholders, they actually access all deepest information that's needed to address the concerns. There is a problem of extensive time frame. There are unique challenges with time frame, but generally there are changes in strategy, changes in environment, impacts of unknown risks. So we have to be prepared. When you have a long timeline, your strategy will not survive to that timeline. So government or organization will change the strategy within 10 years. That's absolutely sure. So you have to be prepared for that. You have to follow that as much as possible. And we already had a situation when we had to review our own objectives and objectives of our key stakeholders on an almost annual basis. And that's not a disadvantage. That's the feature. We have to understand that with mega projects, with programs, you have to review the objectives. You have to realign them to changing business. In order for that to work, you have to allow for regular course corrections. And you have to have built-in agility and resilience. Agility is ability to deliver value in pieces, so that as much value is delivered as soon as possible. Not everything at the end of the project. Because you started moving on some directions, you deliver 0 within 3 years, and then the strategy changes. And suddenly you're still at 0. So think how you can deliver at least parts of something, at least parts of the projects, something that will deliver value as soon as possible and move on with that. That's a part of program design. And what you don't have to do is to allow individual projects or tasks to pad their schedule. You need to consolidate your reserve. You will need that reserve. You will probably have delays. So as soon as you have a very clear vision of a reserve, that helps you to understand how much you actually, how much slack you have and what you can afford. And finally, don't treat your plan as a Bible. It's not set in stone. The plans have to change because you have unknown risks, which for long projects, I'll probably have much bigger impact than known risks. Things that you can't predict will probably hit you hard over a 5 or 10 years period, at least once a month, once a year. And you will have to be prepared and resilient to recover from damage and move on with your plans. Complexity of the scope is another important component, and we here have to understand that mega projects deliver a lot and deliver a lot of complexity. Projects interact with each other, and you have to have a dependency register that you are able to track what's happening among your projects and how they impact each other. In energy industry, for us with utilities, it's especially important because if you disconnect one line and you can't do maintenance or works on another line because you can't disconnect too many. You have to keep certain balance so you have resiliency of the entire grid. So dependency register is one of the most important documents to maintain a mega project because a lot of people are doing a lot of things. You have to be on top of information. Otherwise, they will be stepping on each other's toes. And if it's possible, try to disentangle dependencies so that they don't exist. It's possible to do, but sometimes it could be impossible or too hard. In that case, you have to provide as much slack as possible. And in the end, don't lose sight of any impacts from other parts of organization or from parts of the system to your program or projects, because you will be impacted a lot of times. Finally, the fourth component is the complexity of ecosystem, which for us means that we have lots of suppliers, lots of stakeholders. With suppliers, one thing is we need to learn, and we learned that we need to balance and flexible contracts. Apparently, you can't rely on your contract just to offload all the risk on supplier. Because, as you see, it's a large project for you. It's a huge project for you. It's going to be large and difficult project for every supplier in your list. So the risk that supplier will not be able to meet obligations is a real one. You have to prepare for that. You have to be resilient. You have to be prepared to change the contract rather than just push supplier to meet obligations if it's necessary, because unknown risk, I mentioned. We had pandemic, we had the war, we had various situations when the contracts are not your friends. That you have to find a way to resolve the problem without reinstating procurement, because that would be a significant setback for our program. And important, don't outsource critical roles. You should have a strong, dedicated core team, including the program office, legal, procurement teams. We have, in terms of legal, we have 4 lawyers in the program, and that's nowhere enough. If you're running a mega project, you will have a lot of lawyers. That's what will happen, absolutely. And we also have a technical architect who sees the entire technical picture, and we also have a communication and data analysis experts. So we have to keep them with ourselves. And closing remarks. Above all, success of projects, of mega projects, if there is a possibility to get into a 3% club, hinders on ability of executive leadership to contribute to success. What we need from executive leadership, first of all, is that they provide visibility, that they talk and talk and talk about it. Everywhere, in public and in organization. They should provide sense of urgency. They should give it priority at any time, even as bad as it sounds, at the expense of other projects. And they have to provide the commitment and showing by their own example that they are happy to be included and they are accountable for what the mega project is going to deliver. And finally, there should be stakeholder support and a possibility to escalate issues to them, however high they are. I'm happy to say that we have that support within our governance structure, but it was 3 years until we actually aligned all the issues. And finally, trust that if something doesn't work that way, instead of blaming everyone in the team or looking for souls of whoever was to blame, we are looking for constructive way forward and how to recover from damage and get back on track so that we can deliver that strategic objective that we set up in the first place when we started the mega project. And I'm certainly hoping that your mega projects will be just as successful. Thank you very much.
Artūras, thank you so much. We're going over time, so may I approach your mega project with a micro problem? Okay?
Yes, go ahead.
Yeah, it's because power lines, new grids to continental Europe, everything is fine, but how to pay less for electricity? The bills hits me, all the time. Every month. At first I said, who doesn't kill you makes you stronger. I'm not that strong.
I think we all are on path, and synchronization is one of the elements on that path to become independent and connected to multiple sources of energy. While we're building this harmony link cable, we are creating what was known as adequacy, so that we have as many possibilities to get to electricity as possible. When the increasing costs that we are facing today only are partially due to war and global demand-supply mismatch. A big part of those costs that we have to pay today are because we don't have many choices, many options where to get electricity from. And the more options you have, the more connections you have, the more internal generation of both basically renewables.
You pay less.
The less you will pay, yes.
Yeah. And the fewer kids you have, you will pay less.
That helps as well.
Because they are computers like welding machines. Yeah. Thank you so much for your presentation. I think we need to go forward. Thanks once again.
Thank you.
Many thanks to Artūras Kuliešas.